Good morning, children. This is class 6th, subject social science, chapter number 4, civics. Key elements of democratic government. It's our lecture number 3 and it is summary lecture. As you know that after completion of all the topics in a chapter, we take a summary lecture in which we summarize all the topics done there in the chapter. So as we have completed 2 of the lectures there from this chapter, today we are going to recapitulate all the topics done there in lecture number 1 and 2. So let's see the topics. Introduction of the chapter, apartheid, differences in facilities in South Africa, African National Congress, democratic government, participation in the government, role of government in resolving conflicts, key elements of democratic government. As we have covered all these topics in lecture number 1 and 2, today we will recapitulate them one by one. So let's move ahead. Introduction. As everybody knows that democratic government, that is the government liked by the people, because here in this government all the people are equal. They have the equal rights. They have the right to participate in the government. So key elements of democracy influence the working of democratic government. The key element, those are present there in democracy, equality, justice, they influence the working of democratic government. These include people participation in government and equality, justice. Democracy in South Africa. If you remember, we talked about South Africa, that country became the democratic country in 1994, and before 1994 there was apartheid law going on in South Africa. So now South Africa is a democratic country. It became democratic after a long struggle in 1994 itself. There was apartheid law in South Africa before 1994. So now let's discuss about the apartheid law. Apartheid means separation of people on the basis of race. There in South Africa, the people separation on the people, it was based on race or their color. Different type of people were living there. The native people of the South Africa, those were the black people. White people, those came there for trade, and colored people, Indian people. So these type of people were living there in South Africa. South African people were divided into white, black and colored races. So on the basis of these race, the separation, it was known as apartheid. Differences in facilities in South Africa. Facilities, whatever the people were having, the differences were there between black and white people. The black people of South Africa were not getting all those facilities those the whites were getting. Hospitals and ambulances were different for them. The white people were using well-equipped ambulances, but the black people, they were not allowed to enter in these hospitals and ambulances. They were having the separate one. There were separate train buses for black and white people. Even the bus stops were different for them. The best quality land, it was given to the white people, and the worst land of the country, that was given to the black people. They were not allowed to vote even. The vote that they were casting for the government, the black people, they were not allowed to cast the vote even in the elections. So there were the differences in between black and white people in South Africa before it became the democratic country in 1994. But if we talk about today's situation, as it is democratic country, now all the people, they can enter in ambulances, hospitals there altogether. They can walk there in the parks freely. As in the chapter, we talked about a girl who was asking about apartheid movement, apartheid law from her mother. So now she was from the black community. Now she is getting all the facilities equally with the white people, as it is democratic country now. Protest for language. As in previous lecture, we talked about that one black township was there, the name was that township was Soweto. In that, one boy, Peter, the Hector Peterson was there. He and some of his friends, they protested against the language, as all the people of South Africa were forced to learn African language, that was the language of white people. But some students protested against that because they wanted to learn their own language, Zulu. And in that protest, the police fired on that group of people, and the police bullet killed a boy named Hector in this protest in 1976. This incident happened there in 1976 when these boys were protesting there against the language learning. Now, the next topic is African National Congress. As the black people were there in worst condition in South Africa, so a group of people who led the struggle against apartheid, that was known as African National Congress. The group of people who led struggle against apartheid. Nelson Mandela, a well-known leader of South Africa, fought against the apartheid system for several years. Nelson Mandela, who was from black community, he was the well-known leader of black people there in South Africa. So he fought against the apartheid system, in which the separation was there on the basis of race. Finally, in 1994, South Africa became a democratic country, and Nelson Mandela was the first black president of South Africa. Now let's see something about Nelson Mandela also. If there is a question that write about Nelson Mandela, so we can write in this way. Nelson Mandela was the leader of anti-apartheid movement. Apartheid law means where the separation was there on the basis of race. Anti-apartheid, opposite of it. So he was leader of anti-apartheid movement, in which they were opposing the apartheid law. They were fighting against the apartheid law. He was the first black president of South Africa. He fought against the discrimination on the basis of race. As we have seen that the discrimination was there on the basis of their color. white people were getting all the facilities, and on the other hand, the black people were not getting the facilities. So he fought against that discrimination that was on the basis of race. Democratic government. Democratic government is a government in which all people are equal in front of law and they have right to elect their representative. In democratic government, all the people have right to vote there in election and they can elect their representative. There is a fixed time for government in democracy. The time is fixed there. It is not that the government that is elected once, that is the permanent one. No. There is a fixed time for the government in democracy. Here in India, if we talk about that fixed time for a government, that is 5 years. And it is known as tenure of the government. So after every 5 years, the elections are held in India to elect the government or to elect the representatives in the government. And this time period or tenure is 4 years there in America. So this is all about democratic government. Now, democratic government is most popular, definitely because here all the people, they are treated equally and the widely accepted form of government in the world. As it is a government in which all people are equal and they have right to elect their representative. Next is the topic participation in the government. As we talked now that in the democratic government, people participate by casting vote there in the elections. So here we will talk about the people participation in the elections as well as some other ways how they participate in the government. People can participate in democratic government by casting their votes to elect the representative of their choice. As in elections, at the time of elections, you might have seen that the people, the different posters you see there on the walls, on the polls, everywhere for publicity of the candidate. And at the time of election, at the time of vote, when people cast their vote, the person or the candidate who earns the highest number of votes wins the election, and that person is representative. So the people, they choose their representative of their own choice. All governments are elected for a fixed time. In India, it is 5 years, as we already talked about. It is required to have limitation on the power of the government. By the time period it is fixed, so it is the limitation on the power of the government. Otherwise, if it is fixed, it is permanent, government will not bother for the demands or the problems of the people. So this is really good. This is the limitation on the power of the government, that we can re-elect the government after every 5 years. Other ways of participation in democratic government. By casting vote, the one way we have done. By taking interest in the work of the government. This is really very good. The people of any country, if they are aware about the working of government, they are taking interest in that. So we are taking participate there in the government. We can raise our voice even there. By criticizing government when it is required. If any of the law or any of the thing that government is doing, that is not good for the citizens, they can raise their voice against that. Suppose any of the thing that is going high and high, as in your book example we talked about in 2005, the rates of the electricity, they were the government thought to rise that rate, but what happened, the people protested against that, they criticized that the decision of the government, and finally the government took that decision back. In the same way, we can take the examples that if the rates of anything they are rising and rising, so people can protest against that, because it is government who fixes the rates of anything, who fixes the price of the things. By taking out rallies, dharnas, strikes, etc. We can raise our voice by these methods, by rallies, dharnas, strikes. That is also one of the way by which we participate there in the government. By taking interest in social movement, basically social movements, they are held by the minority people like Dalits, Adivasis. Those are thinking that they are inferior, they are in the society, so they held different social movement. In this way also they are taking participate, they are in the government. So these are the ways we can write how people participate in democratic government. Now the next topic is benefits of participation. Participation is really very good for a country, because if the people are alert and interested in the working of the government, that country will be stronger. Because if people are alert, the government will also be alert that the people are taking interest in the work, so they will do the good deeds only. And in this way, country will be stronger. The government will think for the benefits of the people, because they know that people are alert. It will make the government responsible for its duties. Obviously, if they think that the people are alert, the government will be responsible for its duties. Next is role of government in resolving conflicts. How the government plays the role in solving the conflicts. Conflicts means vivad, jhagde. If we can see there in the society, if there is any conflict between two of the societies, two of the religions, two of the districts or states, it is government to step in to resolve it. Because if people will try to resolve it, the conflicts, that in that situation they can create violence. Because both of the parties, they will put their own benefits in front. So there they can create violence. It is the responsibility of the government in a democracy to resolve the conflict. As when people try to resolve the conflicts on their own, they can create violence. So it is important for the government to step in, means to come in between and mediate the conflicts using legal means. Government can come in between, but it must use the legal means कानूनी तौर से वो बीच में आ सकती है. If when it is resolving the conflicts, it is important for government to ensure that the conflicts are resolved fairly. When the conflicts are solved, then the government makes sure that it is resolved fairly. There is no discrimination in solving any of the problem, any of the conflict. So that's why this is the role of government in resolving conflicts. Next topic, example of some conflicts between state. Here we already talked in the previous lecture that Kaveri water dispute between Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. Both the states, they are having dams on Kaveri river, and if Karnataka it is using the upstream, ये पहले पानी इस्तेमाल करता है. If the Karnataka there in Krishna Sagar dam, it is not releasing water for Tamil Nadu's dam, mature dam. So definitely Tamil Nadu will be there in hunger because they are using that water for irrigation. So that's why the dispute is there between Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. Satluj water dispute between Punjab, Haryana, very common. The central government has to step in to resolve the dispute. As these disputes, these examples we are taking between two states. So it's central government that has to step in to resolve that dispute. Next is government steps to treat people equally. How government treat the people equally in the democratic country. Discriminatory actions are banned. As here in India it is democratic country, in our constitution it is mentioned that there should not be any discrimination on the basis of race, religion or any other custom or anything there in the Article 15. So their discriminatory actions are banned. Laws are strictly enforced. As there in the democratic country, the laws are strictly enforced so that equality they can create. Equality and justice are enforced. The key elements, equality and justice are the key elements of democratic government. So they are enforced. They are really, it's government duty to maintain all these things. Equal facilities are given to all the people there in democratic country. So these are the steps that government take to make sure that all people are treated equally. Now the next topic is, and the very important part, key elements of democratic government. As in democratic government, equality, justice, abolition of discrimination. Abolition means khatam ho jana. Abolition of untouchability. It is all mentioned there in our constitution in Article 15 and Article 17 that untouchability has been totally abolished from India. Then people have right to elect their representative in democratic country. As we already talked about, all the people, they can go for the government job. They are equally, they have the equal right to go there. The respect for every citizen as equality is there. So these are some of the key elements of democratic country. Now, it's time for homework. As we have completed this chapter with different topics, the very short chapter it was, in which we have done key elements of democratic country, how people participate in the democratic country. We have taken the example of South Africa. Before democracy, what was there? After democracy, the scenario was changed. Now, I hope that you have understood all those topics. Now, this is assignment. Question number 1. Do the following questions. Name the various races that live in South Africa. Name the party that fought against the system of apartheid in South Africa. Who is responsible for helping to resolve conflicts or differences? What does government do to promote justice among the girls? Really important this part. The girls there, as we know that in some of the parts of India, the girls, they are not treated equally as the boys. So government do the different at different times, government bring some of the laws to promote justice among the girls. That you can write in your own word even. And if you think that the question, any of the question you do not know, you can write there in the rough, so that whenever you get the solution, you write the correct answer. How does the power of the government get limited? When do people sense their power in democracy? What were Hector and his classmates protesting about? Fill in the blanks. Black and colored people were not considered to be dash to white. Apartheid means separation on the basis of dash. Non-whites were not allowed to dash. Dash led the struggle against apartheid. Through dash in election, people elect leaders to represent them. Elected representatives take decisions on behalf of the dash. The earlier practice of dash is now banned by dash. So these are some of the questions in assignment. You will be getting its solution, and then one more assignment you will be getting from the same chapter. Then the test will be conducted. So revise the chapter well. Now the next thing is homework solution of lecture 2. Question 1. What are the various ways in which people can participate in the process of government? The various ways in which people can participate in process of government: by voting in election, by taking interest in the work of the government, by criticizing government when it is required, by taking out rallies, dharnas, strikes, etc., by taking interest in the social movements. Why do we think we need the government to find solution to many disputes and conflicts? Yes, we need the government to find solution to many disputes and conflicts. If people will try themselves, so they can create violence. So it is important for the government to step in and mediate the conflicts by using legal means. It is also important for the government to ensure that the conflicts are resolved fairly. The next question is, what action does government take to ensure that all people are treated equally? Government takes steps to ensure that all people are treated equally. The points are: discriminatory actions are banned, laws are strictly enforced. Enforce means lagu karna. They are there means equality and justice are enforced. Equal facilities are given to all the people. The fourth question: what are the key elements of democratic government? The key elements of democratic government are: all people are equal, abolition of discrimination, abolition of untouchability, means these things are present there in the democratic government. People have right to elect their representative, respect for their every citizen. This is all about the homework solution. So we will see the homework solution of today's lecture even, then one more assignment, then the test. Thank you and have a nice day.